Prince had seen things most Academy students only read about in history books. He had watched turn entire hillsides into rivers of molten stone. He had seen lightning storms summoned from clear skies to shatter charging cavalry. He had marched through cities still burning days after a siege had ended. War was not an academic subject to him. It was memory. It was experience. It was reality. That was why Prince arrived at the legendary academy with more confidence than most first-year students could ever imagine. The academy was famous throughout the realm as the greatest institution of magical learning in existence. Kings competed to send their heirs there. Noble houses spent fortunes securing places for promising children. Even foreign powers sought admission for their finest talents. But was not interested in classrooms. He was interested in Fight Club. Every nation had heard stories about it. The Academy's most prestigious organization. A place where future were forged. A place where students learned how to survive wars that could reshape entire continents. A place where legends began. Naturally, expected its leader to be some terrifying veteran. An old war hero covered in scars. Perhaps a retired general. Maybe even one of the realm's famous. What he did not expect was Professor. The fox-skin woman stood at the front of a lecture hall, calmly discussing military logistics with a dozen students. She looked nothing like the commander had imagined. Her robes were immaculate. Her spectacles sat neatly upon her nose. Several books floated beside her as she spoke. At one point, she paused her lecture simply to correct a student's grammar. Stared. This was the legendary leader of Fight Club, the organization that supposedly produced some of the deadliest in history. He glanced toward another student. You're telling me she's in charge? The student nodded. Professor founded the modern curriculum. Blinked. Oh, Professor. The student frowned. Is there a problem with that? Before could answer, his ears twitched. The fox-skin woman looked directly at him. A small smile appeared on her face. Prince. The entire room turned toward him. Welcome to Academy. Her voice was pleasant. Warm even. Exactly the sort of voice expected from a librarian. Not a warrior. Not someone responsible for training the future military elite of the realm. He walked forward. I expected something different. A few students winced. Merely tilted her head. Oh, folded his arms. I expected the leader of Fight Club to be a veteran. Silence filled the room. Several students exchanged nervous glances. Smile never faded. And I am not. Shrugged. With respect, Professor, I've fought in actual battles. A few students sucked in sharp breaths. The prince continued. I've seen what war looks like. He gestured toward the books floating beside her. I just didn't expect the leader of Fight Club to spend more time with books than battlefields. The room became painfully quiet. No one spoke. No one moved. Everyone waited for the professor's reaction. Adjusted her spectacles. Then she smiled. An understandable assumption. The answer surprised everyone, including. Rather than becoming angry, the professor simply closed her book. Tell me, Prince. She leaned slightly against her desk. What have your battlefield experiences taught you? The prince answered immediately. That experience matters more than theory. Several students nodded. Continued. Battlefields reveal truths classrooms never can. He took another step forward. A mage exists to defeat enemies. More nods. Even some older students seemed interested. Power wins wars. Listened patiently. When he finished, she slowly crossed her arms. A fascinating perspective. The prince waited. The professor smiled. And completely wrong. The room exploded into whispers. Frowned. Wrong. Nodded. Soldiers think about battles. She raised one finger. Generals think about campaigns. A second finger. Think about wars. The whispers stopped. Students leaned forward. Continued. A soldier asks how to defeat an enemy. A general asks how to defeat an army. Asks how to reshape the battlefield itself. Folded his arms. Sounds like semantics. His tail swayed gently. No. Her eyes suddenly became sharp. It is the difference between victory and extinction. For the first time, something about her presence changed. The warm academic atmosphere vanished. The room felt colder, heavier, dangerous. Even the older students sat. Walked toward the center of the room. Allow me to demonstrate. She snapped her fingers. The classroom disappeared. At least that was how it felt. Suddenly, everyone stood in the middle of a massive battlefield. Gasps erupted throughout the room. Thousands of soldiers stretched across endless plains. Banners fluttered. Siege engines rolled forward. Armored cavalry gathered along distant hills. The illusion was perfect. Every sound, every smell, every detail, stared in shock. The magical projection dwarfed anything he had ever seen. An army of 40,000 soldiers, explained. The illusion continued moving. Troops advanced. Generals issued orders. Battle formations shifted. Then a lone figure appeared on a distant ridge. One mage. Just one. The soldiers continued marching. Unconcerned. Confident. Certain of victory. Then the mage raised a hand. A river changed direction. Thousands of troops suddenly found themselves trapped by rising floodwaters. Another gesture. The hillside collapsed. An avalanche buried entire formations. A third gesture. Thunderclouds appeared overhead. Lightning tore through siege engines. Within minutes, the army ceased to exist. Not because it had been outnumbered. Not because it had been outfought. Because one had transformed the battlefield itself into a weapon. The illusion faded. Silence remained. Even found himself speechless. Looked at him. Did you notice something? The prince slowly nodded. He never fought them directly. Correct. He attacked the environment. Correct again. Smiled. The wasn't thinking tactically. She tapped her temple. He was thinking strategically. For the first time since arriving, had no immediate response. Because deep down he knew she was right. The mage in the projection had not relied upon overwhelming force. He had relied upon understanding. Planning. Control. Studied him for a moment. Then she reached for the clasp holding her cloak. Several students immediately sat upright. The atmosphere changed again. Without a word, she removed the cloak. The room froze. Underneath the academic robes was armor. Ancient armor. Armors. Battle-worn armor. Runes covered every surface. Deep marks revealed wounds that should have killed ordinary people. Medals and insignias decorated the breastplate. Some were so old that students recognized them only from history books. Whispers spread instantly. No way. Those campaigns were 50 years ago. That's impossible. Stared. His confidence suddenly wavered. Because no scholar wore armor like that. No lecturer carried medals earned in wars most people considered ancient history. Calmly folded her cloak. I served 27 years as a... The room remained silent. I fought in 7 wars. More silence. I survived encounters with 11 enemy. The silence became absolute. Looked directly at. And I buried most of them. A chill ran down his spine. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Prince realized he might have underestimated someone. Badly. The professor returned her cloak to her shoulders. Almost immediately, she looked like a harmless academic once again. The transformation was unsettling, as though 2 completely different people occupied the same body. Returned to her desk. Now then, her cheerful tone returned. Shall we discuss Fight Club? Nobody interrupted. Nobody dared. The purpose of Fight Club, she explained, is not teaching students how to defeat armies. She paused. It is teaching students how to survive. The room grew quiet again, because everyone understood the implication. Armies were dangerous. Were worse. One powerful could destroy everything an army fought to protect. Folded her hands behind her back. That is why tomorrow, Prince, you will undergo your entrance examination. The students immediately became interested. Some even looked sympathetic. Noticed, which concerned him. What is the trial? The professor smiled. A simple challenge. Whenever a professor said something was simple, it never was. Smile widened. You must defeat the... Several older students visibly winced. One student actually muttered a prayer. Noticed immediately. What is the... Nobody answered. Simply smiled. You'll find out tomorrow. The bell rang. Students began leaving. Yet many glanced toward with expressions ranging from amusement to pity. The prince watched them go. Then he turned toward. I'll pass. The professor nodded. I hope so. Something about her tone made him uneasy. As he left the room, he noticed older Fight Club members exchanging knowing looks. Not fear. Not excitement. The kind of expressions people wore when they already knew how a story would end. And for the first time since arriving at Academy, Prince wondered whether he truly understood the challenge waiting for him. The next morning, the arena was packed. Word had spread throughout Academy faster than wildfire. A prince, a veteran, a war hero, and now a candidate for Fight Club. Hundreds of students filled the observation platforms overlooking the enormous training arena. Some came out of curiosity. Others came because they wanted to see how long he would last. The older Fight Club members came because they already knew what was about to happen. At precisely noon, the arena activated. Ancient runes carved into the stone floor began glowing with pale blue light. Protective wards shimmered overhead. Layers upon layers of magical barriers rose around the battlefield. The Academy took no chances when trained. One mistake could level entire buildings. Prince stood alone in the center. Confident, focused, ready. Professor watched from an elevated platform. Prince of... Her voice echoed throughout the arena. Your entrance examination begins now. The crowd fell silent. A section of the arena floor opened. Something slowly emerged. Students leaned forward, narrowed his eyes. Then he blinked. That was it. The construct standing before him looked almost ridiculous. It was barely taller than an average human. Its body resembled a wooden mannequin used by tailors. 2 wooden arms, 2 wooden legs, a featureless wooden head. No armor, no weapons, no visible magical enhancements. Just wood. The prince couldn't hide his confusion. This was the legendary, the construct that terrified students. It looked like a children's toy. Laughter spread through parts of the audience. Even smirked. His expression remained unreadable. The rules are simple. Her voice echoed through the arena. Destroy the construct. The prince nodded. Do not allow it to touch you. His smile faded slightly. And there is no time limit. The prince looked toward the mannequin. Still nothing. Still harmless. Still absurd. Raised one hand. Begin. The moment the signal sounded, attacked. A wall of fire erupted across the arena. The flames exploded outward like a tidal wave. Students gasped. The heat washed over the protective barriers. The wooden construct vanished inside the inferno. Cheers erupted immediately. Some younger students assumed the trial had already ended. Wood burned. Everyone knew that. The firestorm raged for several seconds. Then the flames faded. The crowd became silent. The construct was still walking. Not running. Not attacking. Walking. Straight toward. Completely unharmed. The prince frowned. Interesting. A magical defense. No problem. His right hand crackled with electricity. A barrage of lightning bolts erupted from the sky. Thunder exploded across the arena. Blinding flashes illuminated the battlefield. Each strike hit with enough force to shatter stone. The construct disappeared beneath the electrical assault. Smoke filled the air. When visibility returned, the mannequin continued walking. The exact same pace. The exact same direction. The exact same calm determination. The audience exchanged uncertain looks. His expression hardened. Fine, if fire and lightning weren't enough. He raised both arms. The arena trembled. Massive stone spears erupted from the ground. Hundreds of them, each large enough to impale a siege engine. They launched toward the construct from every direction. The impact shook the arena. Stone exploded. Dust engulfed everything. Students shielded their faces. Chunks of rock slammed against the protective barriers. The crowd roared. Now surely it was over. Even enchanted wood couldn't survive that. The dust slowly settled. A single figure emerged. Walking. Still walking. The construct wasn't damaged. Not even scratched. The cheers died instantly. Stared. The mannequin stared back. Or at least it would have if it possessed eyes. Then it took another step. And another. And another. The prince attacked again. And again. And again. Fire. Lightning. Stone. Wind. Shockwaves. Explosions. The arena transformed into a battlefield. Entire sections of the floor vanished beneath the bombardment. Craters appeared everywhere. Stone melted. Walls cracked. Yet every time the dust cleared, the construct remained. Walking. Always walking. Always advancing. An hour passed. Then two. The audience gradually stopped cheering. Now they simply watched. Because something strange was happening. The mannequin wasn't resisting. It wasn't fighting. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't even defending. It simply continued forward. Relentlessly. Patiently. Inevitably. Every powerful spell seemed meaningless. Every attack accomplished nothing. Began noticing patterns. The construct adjusted its movements. When danger approached, it stepped aside. When obstacles appeared, it navigated around them. When explosions occurred, it somehow ended up where the damage was least severe. It wasn't merely enduring. It was adapting. A realization slowly spread throughout the crowd. The challenge wasn't testing magical power. It was testing something else. By the third hour, sweat covered his forehead. His mana reserves were beginning to shrink. Not critically. Not yet. But enough to concern him. The construct, meanwhile, showed no signs of slowing. For the first time during the trial, doubt appeared. He remembered yesterday's lesson. Soldiers fight battles. Generals fight campaigns. Shape wars. The words echoed inside his mind. Shape wars. Shape battlefields. Shape battlefields. Suddenly, everything clicked. His eyes widened. The construct wasn't the test. The arena was. A slow smile appeared on his face. She noticed immediately. Lowered his hands. The attack stopped. The crowd looked confused. Students began whispering. Why did he stop? Is he surrendering? Did he run out of mana? The prince ignored them. For the first time since the battle began, He wasn't looking at the construct. He was studying the ground. The walls, the stone, the arena itself. Then he smiled. A small smile. The kind soldiers wore when a plan finally came together. The construct continued walking. Raised one hand. A crack appeared across the arena floor. Nothing happened. No attack followed. Just a crack. The audience looked puzzled. Another gesture. A second crack appeared elsewhere. Then a third. Then a fourth. Students exchanged confused glances. What was he doing? Only remained completely focused. Because she could see it. The pattern. The prince wasn't attacking randomly. He was redesigning the battlefield. The next hour became strange. Instead of targeting the construct, targeted the arena. Stone shattered. Underground tunnels formed. Deep fractures spread beneath the surface. Small streams of molten rock began flowing far below the battlefield. The process was subtle, hidden, difficult to notice. To the crowd, it looked like desperation. It looked like progress. The construct kept following, exactly as wanted. Every retreat guided it somewhere. Every dodge served a purpose. Every movement was calculated. The prince had finally stopped fighting the enemy. Now he was manipulating it, leading it, herding it. The battlefield itself was becoming a weapon. Beneath the arena floor, temperatures continued rising. Stone softened. Pressure increased. Hidden caverns expanded. The trap grew larger, and larger, and larger. Still nobody understood. Except, the fox-skinned professor crossed her arms. A proud expression appeared on her face. Several senior students noticed. One of them suddenly gasped. Oh. Another followed. Oh. Then another's. Slowly realization spread. They finally saw the pattern. The prince wasn't trying to destroy the construct. He was preparing to destroy the ground beneath it. Hours after the trial began, stood near the center of the arena. The construct continued its endless approach. Step, 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 closer and closer. The prince looked exhausted, covered in sweat, breathing heavily. Yet his eyes now held something they had lacked at the beginning of the trial. Confidence, not the arrogance he had arrived with. Something deeper. Understanding. The construct took another step. The prince smiled. For the first time since the battle began. A genuine smile. Because at last, the trap was ready. The construct took another step. Then another's. Then another's. Its pace never changed. Its purpose never wavered. Across the shattered arena, Prince stood perfectly still. Sweat dripped from his forehead. His robes were torn. His mana reserves were dangerously low. Hours of fighting had pushed him to his limits. Yet for the first time since the trial began, he wasn't worried. The crowd sensed it immediately. Something had changed. The prince was no longer reacting. He was waiting. The continued its relentless approach. Step, 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 closer, closer, closer. Students leaned forward. Most still didn't understand what was happening. Others had begun noticing the strange pattern carved throughout the battlefield. The fractures, the tunnels, the cracks, the strangely heated sections of stone. Professor watched silently from above. Her golden eyes never left the prince. The construct crossed an invisible line. Smiled. Got you. Then he snapped his fingers. Nothing happened. For one brief second. The crowd looked confused. Then the arena shook. A deep rumble echoed from beneath the stone floor. The entire stadium vibrated. Dust fell from ancient walls. Students grabbed their seats. Several spectators nearly lost their balance. The paused, for the first time during the entire trial. Paused. The ground beneath it cracked. A thin line appeared across the stone. Then another's. Then another's. Then hundreds. Massive fissures erupted outward like spiderwebs spreading across glass. The audience exploded into panic. What is happening? Look at the floor. Move. The cracks spread through nearly half the arena. The runes carved into the battlefield began flashing wildly. Protective barriers intensified automatically. Ancient safety systems activated. Even they recognized the danger. Took several steps backward. The construct moved forward. Exactly where he wanted it. The rumbling intensified. Then came the sound. A deafening roar from deep underground. The sound of stone breaking. The sound of pressure releasing. The sound of an entire battlefield collapsing. The arena floor gave way. Thousands of tons of rock plunged downward. The audience jumped to their feet. Gasps echoed from every direction. Students stared in complete disbelief. Because beneath the arena was not empty space. It was lava. An ocean of molten stone glowed beneath the battlefield. Orange, red, white-hot. Heat erupted upward in massive waves. The protective barriers strained to contain it. What had once been a training arena now resembled the heart of a volcano. The realization struck everyone simultaneously. The prince hadn't been attacking randomly. He had spent hours transforming the battlefield. Every crack, every spell, every retreat, every movement, all of it had been preparation. All of it had been part of a single plan. Hours of work revealed themselves in a matter of seconds. The crowd stood frozen, speechless. The finally reacted. The construct attempted to move, but the ground beneath it collapsed completely. Chunks of stone fell away. The mannequin-like golem lost its footing. For the first time in the entire trial, it was vulnerable. The construct tipped forward, then disappeared into the molten pit below. A thunderous cheer erupted instantly. The audience exploded. Students shouted. Some laughed. Others simply stared in amazement. Even veteran Fight Club members looked impressed. The fell deeper. Molten rock splashed upward. The enchanted wood finally began burning. Smoke rose from its body. Flames spread across its limbs. At last, after hours of enduring everything could throw at it, the legendary construct was being destroyed. Slowly the golem sank. Its wooden body disappeared beneath the molten surface. Only one arm remained visible. The cheering continued. Then something unexpected happened. The arm rose upward. The construct extended its thumb. A perfect thumbs up. The arena became silent for 1 second. Then the entire stadium burst into laughter. Even laughed. The mighty, the terror of generations of students, was congratulating its conqueror, still giving approval as it sank into a volcano. The arm finally disappeared beneath the lava. Gone, destroyed, defeated. The trial was over. Prince exhaled heavily. His knees nearly gave out. Exhaustion hit him all at once. Yet despite his fatigue, a grin spread across his face. Not because he had won. Because he finally understood. The arena's emergency systems activated. Powerful earth mages repaired the battlefield. Stone rose from below. Molten rock was sealed away. Within minutes, the massive pit began closing. The audience continued discussing what they had witnessed. Many could hardly believe it. They had expected a duel. Instead, they had witnessed a lesson. Professor descended into the arena. The crowd immediately quieted. She stopped before the prince. For a moment, neither spoke. Then smiled. A well-executed solution. Chuckled. I was beginning to think the thing was immortal. The audience laughed, nodded. Most students think the same. She turned toward the spectators, which is why most students fail. The crowd became silent again. His voice echoed throughout the arena. Every year students enter this trial believing the answer is more power. She gestured toward the repaired battlefield. They throw bigger fireballs, stronger lightning, greater explosions. Her gaze swept across the audience. And every year they lose. Students lowered their heads. Several older members looked embarrassed. Clearly they had learned that lesson personally. Pointed toward, this prince succeeded because he stopped asking how to destroy the enemy. She paused and started asking how to change the battlefield. The crowd nodded. Now they understood. The lesson had never been hidden. The prince simply needed to discover it himself. If brute force solved every problem, continued, armies would not need generals. The statement lingered in the air. Powerful, simple, true, looked around the arena. He remembered how confident he had been upon arriving. How certain he had been that experience alone made him superior. Now that arrogance felt foolish. The professor had been right from the beginning. Us greatest weapon wasn't magic. It wasn't mana. It wasn't destructive capability. It was imagination. The ability to see possibilities others missed. The ability to transform disadvantages into strengths. The ability to reshape reality itself. Power mattered. Of course it did. But intelligence power. Without intelligence, power was simply noise. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Prince bowed his head respectfully toward Professor. Not as a prince, not as a noble, as a student. The fox-skinned professor seemed pleased. She reached into her cloak. The audience immediately became excited. Every member of Fight Club wore a special insignia, a symbol recognized throughout the realm. Held one in her hand. Silver, simple, beautiful. She stepped forward. Prince of... The arena fell silent. You have completed the entrance examination. A pause. Then she smiled. Welcome to Fight Club. The crowd erupted. Thunderous applause echoed throughout the stadium. Students cheered. Veteran members nodded respectfully. Several even stood. A rare gesture of approval. Accepted the insignia. For a moment, he simply stared at it. Yesterday, he had viewed Fight Club as another achievement to collect. Another accomplishment. Another title. Now it meant something entirely different. It represented a beginning, not an ending. There was still so much to learn. So much he didn't understand. And for the first time, that realization excited him. As the applause slowly faded, addressed the crowd one final time. There is one lesson I want everyone here to remember. The students listened carefully. The professor's expression became thoughtful. Throughout history, many races have produced extraordinary. Images appeared above the arena. Giants, elves, foxskin, dwarves. Each race possessed advantages humans lacked. Greater strength, longer lives, natural magical talents, ancient bloodlines. Look toward the students. Humans rarely possess the strongest magic. The image changed. Humans rarely possess the strongest bodies. Another change. Humans rarely possess the longest. Then she pointed toward, but they possess something equally dangerous. The entire arena watched, smiled, the ability to turn impossible situations into opportunities. Silence followed. The good kind. The kind that comes when everyone knows they have heard something important. The crowd looked toward the prince, the exhausted young man standing in the center of the arena. He had not defeated through overwhelming power. He had not won through superior magic. He had not triumphed through brute force. He had won through creativity, adaptability, human ingenuity, the very qualities that transformed ordinary soldiers into legendary. Looked at the insignia in his hand, then at the professor, then at the students around him. A smile slowly appeared, because he finally understood. The lesson, the trial, the purpose of Fight Club. Today he had arrived believing he understood war. Today he discovered he had only just begun learning. And that realization marked the birth of a true,